people buy on emotion. That people want to connect with people, right? Like there's like 72,000 realtors in Toronto, and I always see realtors Instagrams that just say like just sold, just leased, market
Yeah.
update. I'm like, dude, I'm a realtor. I don't give a shit. Like, that's boring, man. Like, who's gonna be like, that's the realtor I want to work with? They don't know who you are. There's no personality to it. I think if you're genuine and being yourself, and we're people. I'm not saying post a video of you blackout drunk, doing something stupid, or your crazy political views.
Yeah.
I keep all that stuff kind of neutral, but I post me going for dinners and having drinks, and I post me, on vacation, and I post me doing my golfing. Like people relate to that stuff, and I never really figured that out until I looked at my analytics on my Instagram, because I used to be just sold, just listed, and I think realtors don't do that. They don't understand the algorithm, don't understand analytics, and if you don't, it's something you need to look into and learn. And look at your analytics, look at what you're posting and what you're getting more views and comments on, and then double down on those things, right?
World-class lessons from the real estate industry's top 1%. Empowering agents to think bigger and do more to create life by design.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Light It Up Podcast, where our goal is to empower agents to think bigger and live a life by design. Today, we are joined by David Hutchinson. David is a top producing realtor at Rare Real Estate in Toronto. David, thanks so much for spending some time with us today, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We've been having a lot of Canadians around, and it could be the fact
that
yeah,
I'm the last one.
It could be the fact that there's 72,000.
We're closing the border. Closing the border.
There's an unlimited amount of Canadians coming through if you want them. I can put you in touch.
It's interesting. We were talking about this yesterday, actually, with Andrew. There's 72,000 agents, and like Americans, or when Canadians meet Americans, they think that we're competitive and aggressive. But you guys have to do so much more to stand out in your marketplaces in comparison to us. So there's a lot of respect.
Yeah, they had a stat, and it was like it's one realtor for every 100 people or something. It's actually easier to be a realtor and successful realtor in New York City than it is Toronto, just because of the sheer volume of realtors that have joined the industry in the last 2-3 years. It's crazy.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, this is where we go into the lightning round, and we'll start with you.
All right. Well, if you had to pick a skill instantly, any skill, what would it be?
Teleportation. I live downtown, man. Is that right? Is that an answer?
Yeah, teleportation. Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
Is it a skill? Can you develop?
Can I be a made up one?
If you could snap your fingers and teleport to another area,
man,
that would be a skill.
That's pretty dope.
I already have all the other skills, so I'm just trying to think outside the box. And I live downtown Toronto, man. It's not a good time driving around. It's like New York City, not it. So if I can teleport around, that's my skill that I made up in my head right there.
I love it.
That's it.
I'm rolling with it. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Work hard, play hard. That's my favorite advice. I think, especially in real estate, you have to. I came from nothing. I don't have a family in the business or any sales background whatsoever, no education on that. And I really had to, put my head down and put the work in. But, you have to live life a little bit too. So I think the best advice that I've ever gotten was work hard, play hard.
That's good. What do you regret not doing when you were younger?
I wish I would have stuck with university a little more and taken schooling a little more serious. I know that wouldn't get me anywhere different than where I am today, but I was playing hockey at the same time I was going to school, and my main focus was hockey, and school was kind of a secondary thought. And I wish I would have put more effort in meeting new people, taking the course seriously, and actually focusing on university, and instead of just coasting through and learning zero. Maybe I would have been better. Maybe I wouldn't be a realtor, but here we are. If I would have taken school a little seriously.
I agree with that entirely.
You sounded like a true Canadian when you said university.
Yeah, that's what college. If we say college here, it's not a good thing. Not that it's a bad thing. It's just universities.
Sounds
here.
It's elite college. Sounds like a community school that you go to on a yellow bus.
Exactly.
Who had the most influence on you growing up?
Who had the most influence on me growing up? I'm gonna go with a hockey player, because I was a big Eric Lindros. He's I'm not sure if you guys are hockey guys or not.
I am.
Okay. He played for the Philadelphia Flyers. He was just hugely involved in his community, and he was a big role model to a lot of kids. And he was just a guy that could do everything, And I think there's very few people that can do that. But in terms of my immediate life, I'm gonna go Big E, Eric Lindros. That's all I got.
Like that. Played for the Rangers for a bit too.
He's a big Rangers fan.
Big, yeah, I've had
Are you?
Rangers season tickets in my family since
3 generations.
1940 or something.
What do those cost? Like $4 million?
I upgraded this year and it's not pretty.
I don't know how you must be the richest guy in the world, because I spent a weekend in Vegas and I need to call my mom to borrow some money. That was bonkers, man.
Well, especially with the currency exchange right now, that's the problem.
It was $35. I went to Salt Bay. You know this guy?
Yeah.
His restaurant. It was $35 US for one drink. So for us, it'd be like
Wow.
$50 a drink.
Where was that?
I don't remember. It was like Midtown. No.
Oh, in Manhattan.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, I went to a hockey game in Vegas recently. We were at the Mike Ferry event.
Oh, cool.
2-3 weeks ago at this point. I mean, Vegas wasn't cheap. I mean, Vegas is obviously an expensive town, but I'm saying to go to a hockey game was still expensive. And I feel like the beers and drinks and all that shit there was even more expensive than New York.
It's bad. It's bad here too. Toronto games, it's like $300 a ticket almost for like not good seats.
You know what though? They're smart though. The smallest beer you can get is like 2.5 beers.
In Vegas?
At the Vegas Knights game. And those beers
right.
I think are, I don't know, $22 or something. But I went with two of the girls on our team, and I wasn't really paying attention. I just kept buying rounds like as if you were with your boys. And she's like, John, I think these are like 2.5 beers, and like I've had like 3 of them. And she's like, I'm probably not gonna be able to like get home. I was like, all right, cut it off.
Oh, that's good.
That was Fernando.
Oh well. All right. What book have you read recently that you'd recommend, and why?
The 5 a.m. Club. It's the best book I've ever written. I'm like religiously obsessed with this book. I just finished it. It's by Robin Sharma, Canadian guy. It's called the 5 a.m. Club. Essentially talks about how, you need to own your morning and own your routine to elevate your life. It talks a lot about getting in a solid routine and following that routine consistently and putting in the work consistently, not just on your morning routine. I find a lot of realtors, they don't know how to time block. They don't know how to schedule themselves, because how would we know that, right? Where we come from, whatever background we come from, to jumping into entrepreneurship with maybe little to no training. And I was bad at that. I found myself every day, waking up at 7, 8 o'clock, which is not that late, but you wake up 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, you go to the gym, you come home, it's 9 o'clock, 9:30. Your first meeting is probably 10. You're answering the phone anyway at 10 o'clock. So from that point until 8 p.m., it was like I never had any time to myself whatsoever. And the book kind of goes over setting your intentions for the day and making sure that, if you start your day off proper, you're just setting yourself up for success for the rest of the day, the rest of the week. And there's something about waking up before the sun. And when you look out, I live in downtown Toronto. So when I look out my window, I see all other condos. And when I'm up and my light's on and I see the buildings are all black, I just feel like I'm better than people.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the best. I feel like, oh, you know what? Like everyone's still sleeping and I just got all this shit done. So it's like, I'm already 15 steps ahead of you and you're still sleeping. So it's kind of like a good thought process to put your mind in.
Yeah, definitely conquering the day is a big thing. What's some of the things in your morning routine that you're implementing from that book?
So the biggest thing I think for me is I do like my morning journaling. I do like meditation. I'm not like a big woo-woo guy, but I do believe in meditation. Just 5 minutes to try to control your thought process in your mind. Sorry for the beeping there.
We got a big woo-woo guy here.
You know what? I'm getting into it, man. I twist my arm and I'm in. But yeah, meditation, journaling, working out, and taking that time to like learn something new, even if it's 20 minutes. I listen to Rob Dial is the guy. It's like a 20-minute mindset podcast. Nowhere near as good as Light It Up podcast, but it's also a good podcast for different stuff. But it's cool. It's good.
Rob Dial.
Yeah, wicked. It's nice because it's only 20 minutes. Some of these podcasts I follow, like Lewis Howes, they're great. And they're just super long and I lose attention. This guy is 15, 20 minutes to the point, gets your mindset in the right space for the day. And each day is something different. And he's like us. Like he's not like some old doctor. He's like a young dude who swears and he's like a successful guy. So it's cool.
We'll make sure we keep this podcast short and sweet then for you.
No, Light It Up. No, I'm good. I'm good for an hour.
Keep it concise, KIRO. Let's go.
Got it. Sorry. The one biggest challenge, I guess, personally for me, and I know I won't speak for anybody else if you guys agree or not, is social media in the morning. It's like almost like it's the demon that takes you off of that routine. How do you combat that, or are you still? Is it an ongoing thing, or is it not even an issue?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't trying to combat that. But what I've been doing is trying to charge my phone. I used to have like a stand beside my bed, now I charge my phone in the kitchen. So it's just, I have to get up and look at it. So I'm less likely to do it right away anyways, but it's still, at night is my biggest thing. I'm trying to cut off any sort of social media after like 8, 9 o'clock if I can, and just be like present.
Yeah.
Whether it's, and I'll read now. So now instead of in bed me scrolling TikTok for, a couple hours, I'll try to read a book, and it just like puts me out. So it's win-win, but it's a battle. It's probably the hardest part. It's like an addiction, right? You wake up and the first thing I do is scroll Instagram pretty much in the past anyways.
Yeah. My biggest thing was like I would post I'm part of an accountability group where I need to actually show proof that I'm working out and like I'm up and doing my thing.
Yeah.
And I would post a story on social media. Then I started realizing that I would be spending time looking at like this, like the girls that I want to like try to like, I'm just like, did she see it yet? Did she see it yet? And
wow.
Then after a while,
we're recording right now, right?
Yeah, I know, but she probably won't listen to it.
I thought you were going to tell the time that you
special.
just got pins and needles because you were sitting on the toilet scrolling for so long.
That's what I mean. I got the red marks on my legs,
Oh man,
wobbling.
It's been 25 minutes.
No, but that's like a big struggle overall. It's just what your intention and where it's going in, and that's we're big believers of the morning routines and like the power of it, and it starts from the night before always.
100%.
So like what you were saying, leaving your phone in the kitchen far away from you, kind of defusing is so important.
Is that your alarm clock too? So you have to get up and turn it off?
You know what? I did. I have a sleep tracker app, and that wakes me up. So the sleep tracker kind of like monitors my. I mean, I'm not sure how accurate it is, but it tells me when I'm snoring and when I'm in REM sleep and whatever. And it'll wake me up at a window between like I usually have between like 4:50 and 5:10, and it wakes me up at the time that it somehow thinks best. I don't know how that happens, but so I do put that beside my bed. But it's like a light thing. I just turn it off. It's a mess. Anyways,
that's pretty cool. There's a lot of benefits in that. That's because light increases the serotonin in your brain and helps you wake up naturally. So that's a benefit.
Well, you're pretty regimented too. I bust his balls a lot. I'm about 10 years older than him, so
he's like the older brother that likes to fuck with me for no reason.
Yeah. But I would say he is very regimented. I mean, if I need to reach this guy after 8 o'clock at night, it's just not going to happen because he's.
I like that.
Yeah.
See, I'm trying to do that too. Like I have a girl and that's her biggest pet peeve, I'll be on my phone till like, no, tonight is your night, and okay, no problem. And then it's like 8:30 and I'm on my phone and 9 o'clock. And then she's like, okay, well, it's 10 now. Like may as well go to, that's impressive. I need to do that more.
It's impressive.
But funny story is last week, Holly Carroll was in town and she had been on the show and she was like, hey, you guys want to meet us in the city for some drinks? And I was like, KIRO, I got an appointment or something. I'm like, you should definitely go though. And he's like, oh, sorry, Holly, I can't. I have to get to bed early. I was like, KIRO, she's like former, Miss Canada.
Yeah. I'm going to text her after this and tell you. Yeah.
And I won't be third wheeling you, and you should just go meet her. But
and he said no. You said no.
No, he said he had to go to bed.
See, this is why I agreed with you.
See, there's an exception to the rule, KIRO.
To hang out with a beautiful woman, you don't sleep.
What did Mike Putnam tell us? He's like, if you go out with the boys, you got to get up with the men in the morning. You can do both.
I like that. That's a good one.
It is a good one, but we had him on a week after Holly's. the lesson was learned late. Yeah, but the biggest thing, like you were saying earlier, university, staying there, meeting more people, like that's the negative, because I share the same thing. It's like you don't have that, but then if you don't have a social life, it's a hard thing to balance through. What's impressive about you is, and really what we're going into in the episode, is really how you're able to form these relationships with the people in your business, and not like a buttoned up kind of, you are buttoned up, but it's not in a way of perception. It's by educating more than anything else.
100%.
Well, I think you could be buttoned up with your skills and your like we were talking about when we were going over some ideas about what we would talk about today. Agents not knowing the market stats and people not knowing, what's going on within their own market. So you could be buttoned up with your numbers and your data and your talk track, but not necessarily have to be so buttoned up.
I agree.
With appearance.
Yeah, that's the best way to say.
I agree.
Well, that's probably the excuse that people think, right? Like they don't need to know their information as long as they're wearing a suit and a tie, maybe.
Yeah,
right?
honest. I think that's a lot of realtors, man. They just want to look. They want to look super cool, but it's not about that. It's about having product knowledge and building genuine connections with people. Like, before getting, I don't want to get too off topic, but I remember one of my first broker records, like told me, the most successful realtor is just the person that knows the most amount of people and has the most amount of relationships with people. You can, You can come from whatever you want to come from, but if you don't know the most amount of people, not out there meeting people, making connections, like genuine connections, it's not going to go anywhere. So, it's kind of it's true, right? I mean,
100%.
We were talking about this yesterday with Andrew, and it was like almost like an epiphany that came out of just the conversation. Really, it's like your database and nurturing your database. You should get a certain percentage of transactions and deals from nurturing your database. And if you want to,
we were always taught 10%.
Yeah. So like for the example
Huge.
we were talking about yesterday is if you have 100 people in your database.
That's a better way to say it.
Yeah. If you have 100 people in your database and you're nurturing them, you're getting 10 deals, 10% of it.
right.
So
Yeah.
you have to grow your database if you want more deals, or
Exactly.
you have to get your sales skills up, and then you have to
Yeah.
go buy leads and buy sources of business to hunt for
Right.
business.
Yeah.
Well, I would say
And,
if you want to get more deals coming to you, maybe coming to like, because if you think about it, right? If like me and KIRO grew up in the Mike Ferry platform.
I'm Tom Ferry. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, Tom too. It very
Yeah.
very focused on prospecting, lead generation, which is great.
Yeah.
That taught me a lot and got me to where I am today. And I'm still prospecting. I still make that a huge part of my business.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're constantly calling for expireds and FSBOs and that sort of thing, then you're constantly having to hunt for new sources.
Yep.
But if you can learn to make referrals and from past clients and deals from your database, I don't know, 40, 50% of your business, then you're not always having to, because I guess the easier way to say it is I don't want to be calling on expireds and for sale by owners when I'm 45 years old.
Exactly. So like here in Toronto, I'm not sure how it is wherever you guys are, but we, in the city of Toronto itself, we're able to do rentals as well. And it's not the most amount of money, but rentals, you're going to get, let's say $1,500 to $2,000 a rental. Okay. And they're fairly simple. You're going to get new people to the city. You're going to get like new people that are starting out their careers, making 80, 90K, good credit scores. They're just beginning their career, but it's a free way. You're making money doing it. It's free to advertise those in Toronto. You can bang out, let's say 5-10 leases a month. The problem with a lot of realtors is that, everyone gets super transactional and everyone's just chasing the money and chasing each transaction. And they forget to build the relationship along the way. And that's how I built my whole business. I literally moved here in Toronto. I knew nobody. I had no friends. I had one friend here actually. And I was like, hey, how am I going to meet people? Like, how do I make money? No one's going to call me. So I took over every lease I could and met as many people as I could. And back then, that was 6 years ago now, I was doing 10 to 20 leases a month. But in my head, I knew, okay, these 10 to 20 people, I'm making, $1,000, $2,000 per person. But more importantly, I need to have them in my database and I'm going to never let them forget who I am ever, until they tell me to beat it. I'm never going to stop emailing them, being in front of their face. So they're on my social media. They're my friends in social media. I call them all the time. I send them my stupid little emails. I send them my Loom videos because I know that in the future, I'm the same as you. I don't want to be cold calling in 10 more years. No, thank you. Right. Like I want to be able to run my business based off referrals. Here in Toronto, that's kind of how I teach a lot of my newer team members how to be successful without spending a bunch of money on ads and online lead generation, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, no, that's golden.
That I have almost an identical story. I mean, the city that we both got started in, Hoboken, Jersey City, huge rental. But what I always tell the agents in our office and the people that are getting started, like exactly what you said, build your business on the rentals.
Yeah.
Eventually, these are young professionals making good money. The 1, 2, 3 years later, they're going to buy a place, and you just have to be top of mind.
Yeah,
it's easier said than done, though, right?
Oh, for sure.
It's for instance, I got in the business when I was 18, right? And I was like, great, I'm gonna figure it out. And there was no actual. I was unlucky because I just joined a random brokerage, but. When I was trying to do rentals, no one kind of tells you plant those seeds. But if you want instant gratification, which is a lot of people right now, right? How do they grow that in a way where it can become more profitable? How can you, like if I was one of your first rental clients, what would my relationship be with you right now?
Yeah, so for me, it's I just keep in front of them all the time. I just want to make sure they don't forget about me because there's so many new realtors and I feel like everyone knows a realtor down here. It's like everyone's brother and mother is a realtor, niece and nephew. So for me, I call them like every quarter, but I send them all my videos, my Loom videos. Yeah. This is for realtors watching mostly, not my clients, but I'm friends with most of my clients. Not all, but I make it seem like we're best friends. You know what I mean? Like you're my best friend. You better follow me on social media. I'm going to comment on all your stupid little stories. I'll give you thumbs up and fire emojis and shit. And I build that relationship that you think we're friends. We are, but I'm going to pile that on deep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I stick with you and they follow me along. And, to touch on that, why I'm successful in this market that we're in right now is because most of my clients have been with me for so long that they trust what I'm going to say. And I find that's what a lot of realtors are struggling with right now is, we're pushing now is a good time to buy. I know rates are kind of screwed up and whatever, and no, the world's ending, but you should still buy. And people are like, well, who are you? And why would I listen to some random dude that you just called me off of Zillow or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Who are you? Whereas me, it's like, look, you've known me for 7 years, okay? You rented from me, you bought from me, you bought another place from me. I'm telling you, listen, you've done well with all of those, okay? I'm not going to lead you astray now, just follow me along and let me show you. So I'm able to kind of build that relationship and I trust those people to kind of, get me to where I am. So I'm okay in a down market. Where a lot of these new realtors that were just transactional aren't, because they have no relationship or no trust with those people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say the other way that, just to answer your question, was like, how do you build on that business of the past rental clients? I was attacking the rental side, right? Hoping that those past rental clients would become buyers one day. But then I was also going to all those landlords after the transaction, of course, which sometimes people would say I was maybe crossing the line a little bit.
I like that.
I wasn't calling the landlord like the day after the lease was signed.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that says I can't call all the landlords in town and say, hey, I'm not sure if you're aware, but our team rented your unit very quickly. If there's anything we can help you with in the future, feel free to help us.
I'm going to write that down. Actually, that's a good idea.
So pick up the landlords on the side too, because you know that they own the property. You also know when the tenant that's in their unit's lease is expiring, right? So when they're going to have a vacancy in the future. Of course, if you're in downtown Toronto, you may have some big, large rental buildings. Of course, you're not going to necessarily be able to help in those situations. But if it's a smaller condo or something like that, you can always try to pick up those landlords.
Yeah.
That's smart. That's a good idea.
I was like 2 years into the business and I thought like I would put my name on a New York Giants football schedule and it was like a magnet on the fridge. I just mailed it to every landlord that I had ever rented a place for.
Yeah.
Because I remember their address is on the lease and their name is on the lease.
Ah,
and
that's smart too.
Yeah. So I would just mail them a magnet or something.
Yeah.
And
cool.
I remember a landlord once called me and they were like, hey, your magnet's on my fridge. I'm like, I have no idea who this is. I'm at an open house. Can I say you're my agent? I want to make an offer on this place. I was like, yeah. Here, yeah, do that.
Yes, man.
They bought it. And I didn't meet them until like after the closing, I think. But
that's awesome, man.
Oh, again, that's cool.
It just, stuff like that happens. But on each of those transactions, you could be trying to pick up the landlord as well.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Adopting the other side is a big thing too. The one thing though that's interesting is like, the way that we were brought up, I guess, in the system is that the way that you need to be perceived by your client is like very professional, this and the other. It's almost like our Instagram handles were not our names just because we didn't want people to find us, right? It's like being a secret agent to the people that you worked with in the past or like transacted with in the past, because you don't want them to be like, oh, well, he's on vacation. Like, why isn't he working my file or whatever the case it is? Like that's a big fear overall. But now it's changing, right? It's like almost if you had a relationship with them, then they trust you more, like you were saying. How did you bypass that limiting belief, or did you ever have that limiting belief?
Oh, it's crazy. So much. Like I remember when I was new, there's a realtor in Toronto. His name's Tom Story.
Yep,
he's like the opposite of me. Yeah, unbelievable guy, super knowledgeable. Like wears the shirt and he looks nice. Has the good like the haircut looks. Anyways, and I used to be like, shit, I got to be like this guy. And I would do my market reports, and it was actually my close childhood friends that checked me, and they're like, hey man, I watched your Instagram. That is absolutely horrible. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, dude, like that's bad. Like delete it tomorrow.
Sounds like some of my friends.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, because I thought in my head that I had to be the super well polished person, never posting any me going out for dinners, never posting vacations. Like you said, I have to be work only. And then I started kind of being myself, and I was like, you know what? If I'm swearing and being myself and people don't want to work with me because of that, well, there's a very high chance that I wouldn't want to work with them anyways. And we wouldn't have worked together regardless. I had a listing before I started getting listings. I think what everybody does is you go and you video other people's listings. Yeah. And this one massive like $7 million listing down here, I was like, I'm going to reach out to the agent and see if I can film it. And the agent was an older guy, and he's like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this. Just call my seller. And I was like, yep, give me the number like right now. So he gave me the contact for the seller. I called the seller. He was like an older dude, maybe in his late 60s, Indian guy, had kids like 16 years old. I went and did the video tour, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a chance on this. I'm just gonna be myself. And I swore I was myself. And he called me after, and he was like, Dave, like, I love it. I want you to be my agent going forward. I don't, and I was like, you're okay with me swearing? He's like, I don't care at all. He's like, I like that you're genuine. A lot of realtors are kind of like trying to be fake on social media, and they come across as something that they're not. And he's like, when I met you and who you were on the video was the same person, and I find that like very attractive. I was like, just keep being you and keep being genuine, and you'll be my new agent. And I was like, all right.
So you stole that. You stole that old man's listing.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Shamelessly. No, I didn't steal his listing. He wouldn't. He talked about it, and I was like, I don't want to get shit on as new in the industry. And I'm like, no. And the guy was a bigger-ish agent, so I didn't. But he ended up buying some for me in the future, so it was kind of cool.
It's interesting. It's funny that you say that, because I can think of a few agents, and I won't name names, that were filming other people's listings, right? But you have to. I'll try to cast it as, hey, we're out there trying to learn about the inventory. It's a preview, but you're also trying to build yourself up. But hopefully these people are learning a little bit more about the market too while they're doing it. But that's a good story of just how you got in front of some other people. And I think it's sort of funny that the seller was willing to let the listing agent gave you the seller's number.
Yeah. I was like, are you sure? I was like, I'm writing the number down. I was like, I'm going to call your seller. He's like, yeah. I was like, all right, man.
There was an agent on our team years ago who got 7 rental listings in one day. She was the first agent I ever had on our team, Lindsay, and she was doing a deal in town in Hoboken, and I think the listing agent was like, the landlord's office is around the corner from your office. Just like go over there. Dude, she comes back and she's like, I wanted to fire he's like, he wanted to fire his agent anyway. Lindsay comes back with literally 7 sets of keys. I think she had her very good looking girl.
Yeah.
She's like, what do I do with this?
She dresses, that's exactly what she said. She dresses the part. She comes back to the office. She puts like 7 sets of keys on my desk. And she's like, I think I got 7 listings. I was like, how? What did you do? Like, what happened? And honestly, though, it's timing, right? What? Oh, God. What? Well, I don't know if that'll convey on Spotify, whatever the hell you just did. But
nope.
She came back with 7 listings.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Good for her.
It's just, I don't know. She obviously the landlord saw more value in her.
I think people forget that that people buy on emotion. That people want to connect with people, right? Like there's like 72,000 realtors in Toronto, and I always see realtors Instagrams that just say like just sold, just leased, market update. I'm like, dude, I'm a realtor. I don't give a shit. Like that's boring, man. Like you got to connect. Who's going to be like, that's the realtor I want to work with,
Yeah.
They don't know who you are. There's no personality to it. I think if you're genuine and being yourself and putting that, you're allowed. We're people, I'm not saying, post a video of you blackout drunk, doing something stupid or your crazy political views. I keep all that stuff kind of neutral, but I post me going for dinners and having drinks, and I post me, on vacation, and I post me doing my golfing, like, people relate to that stuff, and I never really figured that out until I looked at my analytics on my Instagram, because I used to be just sold, just listed, and I think realtors don't do that. They don't understand the algorithm, don't understand analytics, and if you don't, it's something you need to look into and learn. And look at your analytics, look at what you're posting and what you're getting more views and comments on, and then double down on those things, right? A lot of realtors are just posting, just sold, just leased, and they're getting 2 likes, and they post a video of them doing whatever and get lots more, but then they go right back to posting just sold, just leased, because they think that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Let's segue into some of the videos that I've seen you post, whether it's you or you and your team. And I know when we were preparing for this conversation, we were talking about, putting out educational content. What are some of the things that you guys have put out that have been successful? And what do you think some agents should be talking about instead of just doing the just listed, just sold posts?
So what I do, I honestly, it sounds super cheesy, but I carry around a book with me at all times. And if a client asks me the same question, or multiple clients ask me the same question twice, I write it down, because people obviously want to know what the answer is. I see the same things on Instagram every day. Here are 5 tips on how to sell your home. Everyone knows that. Yeah, right. Yeah. You don't got to do this. It's like, when someone asks me something, I try to write it down. I'll do it. So one thing that we had a lot of success with was talking about self-employed people getting mortgages. Toronto itself is a very, high net worth city. Lots of people have a lot of money here, but most people don't work conventional 9-to-5 jobs or salary positions. They're entrepreneurs making good money, and they're like, I can't buy because I don't have a salary. So I actually made a video with my mortgage broker explaining how you can and the ways around the loopholes of that. And that was really successful. What do we have recently? A lot of people have questions about mortgage stuff, mortgage interest rates, trigger rates, a big thing here. Everyone's nervous, right? So it's kind of giving the education on what's going on.
Yeah.
But again, thinking like outside the box, honestly, stuff that no one else is saying. Everyone's saying the same shit.
Yeah.
All realtors, all 72,000 realtors are doing the same posts, the same things, saying the same stuff. So again, off the top of my head, that was my biggest one that I've had so far. I'm going to look and pull one up here
But I think the biggest takeaway to take from there is like you gain the confidence of being yourself when a seller of a $7 million place says, I want you. And then from there, you're like, all right, so people will actually accept me as I am because this guy has a very, very expensive property wanted me. So now you're like, all right, but what does people want to know? So, yesterday we were talking about how people come for the plot and they stay for the character. So it's almost like the plot, you were finding the frequently most asked questions with the FAQs. You're documenting them coming from a place of curiosity. You're trying to find issues in the market from what you were hearing. And then you would create content around that. So that's one way that you were, one, educating yourself, two, connecting with people because you were just being yourself on that.
Yeah. I try to come up with a humble approach and a down-to-earth approach. Like, a lot of time I see realtors post, well, this is what you need to buy a house. You need $80,000. And it's like, okay, well, how about we talk about how you get that $80,000? Because just saying you need 80 grand, not many people can be like, oh, just 80 grand, no problem. Let me see here. Like, that's not, it's hard to get the 80 grand. So let's make some videos on how you make that down payment or ways around that down payment or give my backstory on how I did it because, I didn't get handed any money. It was a battle, right? So just kind of like relating to people at like a personal level, I think goes a long way.
And we were talking earlier too, you were saying to the point where now when you show luxury property, you go in there with a hat, a sweater, you're not buttoned up at all. Is that because you feel confident enough in the relationship that you've built with these people, or what is that based out of?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I understand as a new realtor, you're not confident on your product knowledge, but I just have the confidence knowing that I do know what I'm talking about. So it doesn't matter if I go with a suit. Don't get me wrong. If I'm meeting a 75-year-old person, in a very prestigious area, I'll put a suit on. But 90% of my clients are around my age. They're like young tech entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs. I think if I wore a suit, they'd be like, what is wrong with this? Yeah. So for me, I just provide value through my confidence. I know what I'm talking about. I listen. And when I'm doing showings, I always say that it's funny. A lot of my realtors are like, what do I say during the showing? I'm like, well, just talk to them. When I go to these houses, I'm not like, look at the fucking, I didn't mean to swear. Look at the beautiful
fucking molding in here.
Yeah, like the people are like, okay, like what kind of, look at the beautiful courts. Like everyone's like, I don't care, man. Like it's a condo. It's the same as the 7 other we just saw. I'm like, did you watch the game last night? Oh my God, did you see that crazy lady outside? Like I'm just talking. And then when they ask me questions, Toronto's, and this is not, everywhere is the same, but we can't know every little pocket, every little house. So I say, look, you know what? Let's have fun with this. Let's do these showings. I know what I'm talking about. I can give you average price per square foot. I can give you the estimate of the home. But my work starts when I go home on my computer and I can dive into my numbers and get to like actual numbers for you. So let's enjoy this process. Let's have some fun. Let's see the properties. Obviously, I'm going to look for things that are obvious to me that you might miss as a new buyer. But when I get back home, I'm going to give you every single number that you need. So let's enjoy this process. Let's have some fun. Yeah. And then go from there.
It almost feels like, it sounds like the way that you're doing it is brand focused and just putting yourself out there. And when you have agents on your team, are you trying to, just really inspire them to build their own brand and just build their own network from that as well?
Yeah. The way I run my team is honestly probably different than a lot of. Actually, you know what? You guys are EXP, right?
Yeah.
I'm building my brand and model almost identical to what you guys are doing at EXP. I do take a little bit of commission split if I give them leads, but on the most part, I'm more focused on building culture and building brand recognition. And when I was new and on a team, I was on a team. My team leader gave me crumbs of leads, and then I followed the crumbs, and then I wanted to do more, and then I got really good at being a realtor, and I left. And then I was like, I don't want to build a team of people that are going to do that. I'm going to pour my heart and soul into them. They're going to get really good, and when they get good, then they leave.
Yep.
And then I'm doing it all over again. So, yeah, the way I run my team, I encourage them to build their own brand on who they are. Not everybody's like me, right? Not everybody is like you guys. There's certain people where, like Tom Story, if he tried to do a video like me, people would be like, that's weird. But he's good at the fucking, this is right. That's his personality. That's his brand. And that's amazing. And he doubles down on that. So the people on my team, I'd say, listen, be yourself and build your own brand, and your clients are going to come based on your own brand.
You know, the thing that came to my mind, and, you know, John had a habit of playing this recording sometimes. It's like, you know how you throw seeds? Some will fall on fertile soil, some will fall on rocks. And it's like, you have to have the mentality of, you know, some will, some won't, who cares next? I think that people who tend to overthink of trying to satisfy the whole world are the ones that freeze up and
big time
turn off everybody, because they're, one, not being themselves, two, they're not being genuine, and they're just giving the perception of somebody else that they're not. Because I, you know, as you were talking about that, I was like, you know what, you know, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, Tom Story.
Tom Story.
If I was to see Tom, I'd be like, yeah, that's the guy I would trust. But would I trust the guy that's the genuine version of me? I'm like, I don't know. You know, I'm just so much used to the Tom Story kind of vibe. But then the reality is that some people would be attracted to that. Some people would be not attracted to that.
Yeah, that's true, right? Everyone's different. And another one person told me, you know, those who try to be seen by everybody get seen by nobody.
That's a good one.
Same thing as what you said, right? If you're trying to appease everybody, it's never going to work. And you almost rather double down on your niche of people and the people that are like-minded to you.
Yep.
And then you're going to get 10 times the results, right?
Yep. And isn't it interesting? There was, we were exposed to this one lady, an amazing lady. Her name is Karen Bernardi. She's out of Boulder, Colorado. And she's like bubbly, full of life and everything. And she was like on stage once talking to our lead coach, Mike. And she was just like, yeah, like, you know, I wasn't living in the neighborhood that I was selling in. And then she lived in the neighborhood that she was not selling in, which was like 2 million plus value homes, but she was selling in price points of like 500,000, 700,000. And then she was like, how do I break into this neighborhood? And he was like, you live in that community. Like, that's the people that are like you. Just be yourself with those people. And it's interesting because you try to, you know, if you try to be different, you're in different neighborhoods that you probably want to be in. And it's probably a little bit more enjoyable. I can imagine. My hallucination is that it is funner to do that.
For sure.
Any pros and cons for someone trying to get into that? How would you advise a new member on your team to dive in?
Just to real estate in general?
To really just kind of building out their sphere in a way where they're able to leverage it the same way that you have.
I think a lot of people have gotten away from in-person anything. My team, most of them are newer realtors. A lot of it's online, whatever. At Inman, one of the realtors, he said he meets with 20 people. This is a bit much, but he meets with 20 people per month to take them out for clients or for coffee, whether it's past clients, new clients. Doesn't have to be an hour, 2 hour long lunch. Be like, hey, look, I'm in your neighborhood. Haven't connected with you in a while. Do you want to grab a quick coffee and drive out to them and spend 20 minutes? I got 20 minutes. I just wanted to say hi. I'll bring you a coffee and let's meet a coffee and let's talk. I think reaching out and building that in-person relationship will go a long way. Less from the virtual side of things. I think being in person and getting that human connection back, I think is going to go a long way for them.
Yeah. There's a book called The 7 Levels of Communication.
I think I've heard of this.
Yeah. It's like the guy talks about, like, he would take somebody, like he would go to a diner and have a little booth and like he would just have scheduled with people that he knows and they would come in and meet with him. He's like, that's like how he would try to get every person in his network to meet with him at least once a year in person, but he'd call them 4 times a year, which is similar to that. That sounds pretty insane.
Well, I imagine you're having a lot of these newer agents also start like the way that you started, right? With rentals?
Yep, they all do. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
There's so many different options, but with today, like a lot of the newer generation, I feel like is apprehensive to meet with someone else in person.
For sure.
Like prospect or door knock or do the hard work that needs to be done to grow that structure. I think the negative is that some people who have that hunting mindset won't actually think of the dividends that that relationship could build. And they focus more on the transactional side instead of the relationship and hunting for more and more and more.
What market is DK in?
DK is in Ontario.
He's a Mike Ferry agent we know for years now. He's been on the show.
Okay.
He's an absolute beast. Shout out Agent DK.
Really good dude.
He's an awesome dude. He's in Ottawa. No, is that Ottawa?
Ottawa.
Yeah,
Ottawa.
That's the word.
Wow.
Nailed it.
I don't know how I didn't guess that.
He was talking about door knocking too in the freezing cold, and he was doing it for accountability, but he was just like, that action of doing it, he still does it for fun.
Yeah.
And it's just almost like once you do it, you feel like you do anything.
Well, that's me. Like I always told myself when I have a team that I'm going to make sure I always lead by example and I'm going to do the thing. I'll never ask my team to do something that I wouldn't do. And when I was on a team, when I was new, that's where I didn't like, you know, I'd be like in the summer and my team lead would be like, oh, we got a lead in, you know, a town an hour and a half away. Here you go. And I was like, fuck, man, like, and then I'm driving an hour and a half away and I see her on the beach, like, you know, at lunchtime. I was like, man, like, so for me, I find I always want to be the hardest working one on my team because if I'm not, then I feel like they maybe lose trust or lose faith. So if I can be the hardest working person on my team and lead by actual example, I think it goes a long way for me anyways.
No, that's powerful. I was reading a quote. It was saying that, for the people standing behind you, you protect them. To the people standing next to you, respect them. And to the people in front of you, you do everything you can to destroy, right?
It's true.
So it's like when you're leading somebody or doing that, it's like you have to lead by example, but doing the actions that you're doing, how do you handle that situation?
When there's people on your team that aren't necessarily taking the suggestions or the direction that you're giving them.
Your guidance, what do you do?
You know what? I genuinely struggle with this, and it was something that I realized a lot of team leaders struggle with. I started doing I use Follow Up Boss.
Yep.
And every team meeting, I'll show the leaderboard of who's doing what. It gives you like fake bullshit points on if you call people or whatever, it'll get points. So I'll just like casually have it in the background on meetings, and people are like, you can see them being like, is that my name on? And then I don't even say anything about it. I'm just like, and if you notice over here, they're like they're not paying attention to anything I'm saying, but looking at the leaderboard.
Yep.
And then I notice the person, next week will come in, they've made double the phone calls or double the emails. So I try not to make it like a negative thing. I don't bring it up too much, but I like them to know that I know what they're doing.
Know that you're
without being like, I'm looking. I know what you're doing.
So that's transparency in the organization is a good way of holding them accountable. And
big time
and everything there. In closing, I'll say there was Andrew Carnegie, when he owned United Steel or US Steel, he had a partner basically who was helping the management of the plants. Last name I think it was Schwartz, Charles Schwab, right? Schwab. Well, he did that though, right? He would say, okay, there was a night crew and a morning crew, and basically one day he walks in and then he's like, all right, how much did the morning crew produce? And they would say like 20. So he just write a big 20 on the ground, and then the night crew would come in, and next thing you know, he would find the next morning it was like scratched off and it was like 40. So now the production just went up because camaraderie, number one, and two is just accountability. It's like it was actually being tracked, so people were now being like, I have to fucking do this. If somebody wanted to reach out to you or get in touch, what's the best way to do so?
Honestly, Instagram's great. I'm on my Instagram all the time. I know my friends hate that, but my Instagram is @the_Dave_Hutch, and I'm always on my Instagram, or just honestly, email is good too. David@djhrealty.com, but my Instagram is my biggest point here.
Sweet, man. All right, cool, man.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We really do appreciate your time. I think people will certainly find the value you provided very interesting, especially for people on a team and people looking to build their business.
I appreciate that. Honestly, thanks for having me. You guys are awesome. It's good chatting with you guys.